2000, my online boyfriend and I decided to ditch the virtual reality for actual reality at lightning speed. We took our first weekend together to introduce one another to our mutual families. Whether it was insanity or stupidity, we loaded up the car and set out on our excursion to meet the parents. Since my family was in closest proximity, we started there first. Like any good Southerner, my family roots are steeped deeply in insanity. While I'm certain most people think an element of mental illness runs through their family, in mine it runs rampant. Resisting the urge to turn the car around, I opted for full disclosure about my mother. There will probably be nudity. There may or may not be inappropriate sexual conversation. There will definitely be cursing. Don't show fear or aggravation. It will only make things worse. Anticipating our arrival, my mother was standing on the front porch in a bikini with a phone pressed to her ear, speaking at the top of her lungs. She made it through the emails. He's a Filipino. I don't know, maybe she can get you one. She acted as if I had selected Rod in some store for lonely, desperate women, like he was right there in the aisle next to the dildos, only he didn't require batteries and lube. Exiting the car, I instantly mouthed, "I'm sorry." For the most part, she was on her best behavior, and then I took a shower. I found a frazzled Rod sitting cross-legged on the bed with a pillow wedged under his chin, rocking back and forth. "You're not going to believe what your mother said to me. I was just sitting there. I was just on the couch when your mom asked me what I'm doing, and I say, I'm watching a ball game. And you know what she said? You know what she said? She said the only kind of balls she likes are the kind that slap against her ass." Unfortunately, I had actually heard that particular statement before, so I was unable to provide him with the reaction of shock that he was expecting. Was she dressed when she said this to you, is what I asked. She just had on her bra and underpants. Well, consider yourself lucky. Hi from our quasi-successful weekend with my mom, where she was mostly dressed and Rod didn't go blind. We steered north and headed off to meet his people. Pulling up in front of their New Jersey apartment, Rod turns to me and at that moment chooses to say, "I need to tell you something. I have never brought anyone home before." And I say, "Oh, you've never brought a girl home before? Okay." He's like, "No, I have never brought a human home before." And I'm thinking, no sleepovers, no friends accidentally stop by, nothing, nobody. And he's all, "No." I should have opened the door and run the hell away, but I did not. Instead, I followed him into an apartment that I would like to tell you resembled the inside of a clown car, should all the clowns actually live in the car, and should they all be pack rats who haven't cleaned the car in an extremely long time. From floor to ceiling, front to back, there was not a visible square foot of empty space anywhere. Rod's mom and dad and aunt were seated at a crowded kitchen table, and they instantly made me feel out of place, like a white Godzilla set to take over the villagers. While his dad and aunt showed a willingness to meet me, his mother did not. I thanked her for allowing me to visit, and I actually offered her my hand, but she refused. I told her how highly I viewed her son, to which she replied, "Why are you so fat?" Well, it is true that I've always had a weight problem. However, I had recently experienced a significant weight loss, and at the time was very proud of my size 14 frame. Actually, I said, I've quite recently lost a bit of weight, but you're still fat. Okay, I am sorry. I said, not really knowing what else to say. I suppose I could try harder. It was just a few hours later when his parents announced that they had actually had a surprise, that they had bought a new home a few blocks away, and that they were going to be expecting to move that weekend, and everyone was expected to help. So, thinking that I could win back, brownie points, I eagerly volunteered to be of service. Moving day is a challenge under the best of circumstances, but moving an unprepped apartment that resembles a clown car is a totally different beast. For the sake of efficiency, we actually formed a relay-style operation where Rod would run the items to me and I would pack them in the truck. The first set of items that Rod dragged down the stairs were random bed rails, just random ones. The next few trips produced 3 broken lamps, a half of a keyboard, a dead plant, a box of broken plastic pieces, and a stained comforter. I'm like, what the hell? We are like, this is trash. We are literally packing trash. She says, as a signal for me to calm down, just pack, just pack. 2 boxes of broken computer equipment headed down next, followed by a plastic container of plastic bags, a beanbag with a hole, algae-covered fish supplies, 6 to 7 rolled-up foam mats. I had at one point attempted to try to stack things in like an organized manner to try to prevent shifting in the truck. And then at some point I just realized, I'm literally just protecting, broken stuff. So I'm just like chucking it, into the back of the thing. What the hell was going to happen to it anyway? I'd like to say that our weekend ended with Rod's mother gushing about my hard work and obvious dedication to the family, but it didn't. Rather, it ended with Rod's mom shoving a box of his childhood souvenirs into his arms as we headed out the front door, and her uttering an almost guttural, "I hate you," under her breath. We were silent for our first few hours back on the road. As solo humans in the world, you're only aware of the idiosyncrasies that apply to you and your family. But the act of falling in love actually forces you to open the most intimate parts of yourself to someone else, for better or for worse. You hold your breath and you hope that when you reveal those less flattering parts of who you are and where you come from, that you don't send the other person running. It may just have been coincidence that we both pulled back our curtains and crazy fell out. Slipping my hand into his, Rod looked at me and smiled. It is something to recognize the exact moment when 2 people truly understand how uniquely qualified they are to be with one another. Love can't always be ideal, or for the better. Sometimes what makes it special is when you have someone that you know can be there for the worse.
When I was 10 and living in California, the city of Oakland began offering free tennis lessons to kids 12 and under at some of their public parks. At the time, I remember thinking this was very generous of the local government, but now I think it was more of an effort to displace some of the skateboarders, bikers, and drug deals that were taking place on the overgrown courts, especially at parks like Bushrod, named after Bushrod Washington James, a successful surgeon and philanthropist, which was near where my family lived. I'm not saying that Bushrod was a tough park, but the Winchell's Donut House around the corner was unofficially known as Police Station Number 13. I started taking lessons there with a guy named Charles. Charles was tall, strong, and inspirational. He played professionally when he was younger, but never reached a high enough rank to make any real money at it, which is why he was stuck with 10 and 11-year-olds on the weekends. Charles taught us to do drills, to run sprints, and do target practice with balls. And I ate it up. It unearthed a competitiveness in me that I didn't know existed. And before long, I was the top student in the class. Charles encouraged me to enter city tournaments and to replace the wood racket I had that my father had given me, which was so old that if you took a cross-section of it, you'd see more tree rings than Bjorn Borg had headbands. This racket, by the way, it had a vise on it that you put on the head of the racket, which was made out of wood to keep the racket straight, but the vise was warped too, so you're basically taking a warped piece of wood to keep a warped piece of wood from getting any more warped. With Charles's encouragement, I convinced my mother to take me to a store and get me one of those aluminum rackets. Charles also nominated me for a scholarship that Oakland was offering for $250 for some of its most promising young athletes. I ended up winning that scholarship, but I didn't know what to do with the money. You had to use it for something related to tennis, so I really just signed the check over to Charles and asked if he'd give me a few extra lessons. He agreed, and we had a few more lessons, and I felt like we had a really good working relationship, and I was getting better all the time. Soon after that, he said that he wanted to meet my parents and have them over for a party. I was very excited about this union of my sports life and family life, but it turns out that Charles just wanted to do a hard sell for Amway products. Which soured the relationship, and I never saw Charles again. The next fall, I transferred schools to a more affluent area closer to the hills and continued my free tennis lessons at a place called the Chabot Recreation Center, named after Anthony Chabot, a Canadian entrepreneur known as the Water King for the way he managed water in the area. Kids at Chabot took tennis a lot more seriously than they did at Bushrod, and I quickly learned that Christina Robinson was the #1 kid in that class. Christina made me tingle inside, even at age 11. She was like a cold, steely-eyed Marcia Brady, with hair and pigtails and perfect tennis outfits. And she never would have given me the time of day, except that I quickly emerged as a competitive threat. And I remember after I'd been there a couple weeks, I saw her walking towards me across the courts, the doubles line, the singles line, her tennis skirt swishing as she walked. And she got right up to me, so close that I could see the freckles on her nose prominent from an afternoon in the sun. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I said. And then she looked deep into my eyes for this part. "You should play me," which was the biggest come-on line I'd ever received in my life at that point, and probably since. So we set up a match after that to definitively decide who was the best in the class. And I really wanted to beat Christina, but I also just kind of wanted to look at her. We went back and forth for a while and it was very close, but she got up 40-love in the final game, and I couldn't find a way back in. I saw her relax after that, relieved that her reign would continue, and also that she probably didn't have to talk to me anymore. But I continued to find inspiration in seeing her there on the court. We ended up playing a few matches together in city tournaments, paired up as mixed doubles, and ended up winning a few matches. Every time she would step on the court with me, I would think it was proof that we were meant to be together forever. She would take her silver medal or whatever we won and go home without ever saying goodbye. I was mildly heartbroken when the lessons ended, but I knew that even if things had worked out with Christina, she was the type of person who would walk all over me, though I would have put up with it for a little while. A couple years later, a friend of mine who went to junior high school with her told me that she was letting some guy pay her $20 a week to be his girlfriend. I have no idea if that is actually true or not, but at the time I remember thinking, like, she has this capitalist thing down. Like Anthony Chabot and Bushrod Washington James, she really knew how to work a system. I lost track of her after that. I continued to enjoy the game and love the game, and I played varsity tennis in high school for 1 year, and then I quit because I couldn't make the wardrobe work for me. You had to wear these white shorts and bleach them like every 2 days. It was a lot of effort. Plus, at my school, and probably at yours as well, they made fun of you if you wore a varsity jacket for anything other than football, baseball, or basketball. I still enjoy the game, though, and if anyone's interested in playing at some point, please contact me. I'd be happy to set up a match for $20.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll forgive me if I don't stand to give my story, but I'm getting quite old. You've heard about love at younger ages, now you're going to hear about love at an old age. I wonder if some of you who are younger than I wonder what it's like being this old. If you go back to Shakespeare, do you remember he divided life up into 7 stages. The last one, the one before you die, he painted in a very gloomy picture, talking about, if I remember correctly, sagging flesh and failing faculties and losing teeth. Well, that was then. I don't buy that at all. For anything, for one thing, I still have most of my original teeth, no doubt because of modern dentistry. Anyhow, that was a long time ago. So let's fast forward to the 1800s. When Benjamin Disraeli was Prime Minister of England, and he was not only a politician, but he was quite a scholar and writer as well. He sliced the cake a little differently. He took adult time of life and divided it into three, which was youth, middle age, and old age. And he contended that youth was a blunder, middle age was a struggle, and old age a regret. Well, that's a pretty pessimistic view, isn't it? If I translated that into modern parlance, I think it would go something like, life sucks and then you die. So anyhow, let me bring it right up to the 21st century. Here we are, and relate to you some experiences that I had. I was in my early 70s, and I can just about remember that time, when I found myself suddenly single, and I thought, well, what do I do now? I liked the companionship of ladies, always have done, hope I always will do. And so what did I do? I went on the internet, did the modern thing, went to a dating service, looked up somebody and found somebody that piqued my interest, and so I started emailing this lady, and we emailed back and forth 2 or 3 times, and the more we did that, the more encouraged I was, to the point where I said, well, why don't we meet? And I'll never forget what she replied. She said, well, I'd like to meet, but she said, it's something I have to tell you. And the thing she had to tell me was that she'd just been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And I thought, oh my goodness, and thought, that's terrible. You get diagnosed with something and your whole social life comes to a grinding halt. I did a little bit of research on the disease. I didn't know anything about it before that, and came to the conclusion, that it wasn't something that was going to incapacitate you completely in an instant. So I said, what the heck, let's meet anyway. And the rest, as they say, is history. We got on. She was a lovely girl. I'll call her a gem and give her the name of Emerald as a result. That's not her real name, or Emma for short. And she and I just got on like a house on fire. We were like 2 peas in a pod. Choose your own metaphor. So anyhow, she lived in Georgetown, and we both enjoyed very much classical music. So we used to go to the concerts there. Some of you may know that they have a visiting symphony orchestra, which comes every few weeks. We had lovely concerts, thoroughly enjoyed it. We also both liked going out and about and exploring and finding new things. And so we took the county of Williamson County, and each weekend we'd go to a different place and we'd explore and find out what was there. And we found some lovely little towns and hamlets and churches and ethnic groups, and we had a wonderful time together. But there was one thing that she had always wanted to do, one item on her bucket list, shall we say, and that was that she wanted to go and visit Scotland, where her family had some deep roots. But she had this disease, and so it's quite a challenge to go on such a long journey. But I encouraged her, and I said, come on, we've got to work on this, get you stronger. We went out exercising every day, got her to the point where she could walk about a couple of blocks with a walker. And I thought, okay, that's sufficient, I'll get us around. And so we started making arrangements, and I should add that by happy coincidence, I have a sister who lives in Scotland. And so I contacted her, and she said, yes, come on over, we'd love to see you. So we were just about to go when Emma, unfortunately, fell, and you guessed it, broke her hip. So I thought, oh no, after all that work and preparation, there she was with a broken hip. But she had to go to hospital, have it mended, and then go through therapy, and then more exercise, and then she was released to come home again, etc. It set us back about a year. And so we worked up again to the point where I thought she was strong enough to go, and we made the arrangements roots again. We flew over to London, we bought a British Rail pass so that we could meander through the countryside and see everything at leisure. And we worked our way up the west side of the country and finally got into Scotland. And we went and stayed with my sister for about 10 days and explored the lovely countryside there, including some of the castles, and Balmoral Castle, which is one of the Queen's residences, as you possibly know. Anyhow, she was delighted, she realized her dream, and I was very content too, because I sort of felt to myself that she probably wouldn't have been able to do it without my help. So, I could go on, but we are restricted to time. So, I'll just say that we came back on the eastern side of the country, flew back to here, and resumed our lives. But unfortunately, her health deteriorated at that point, and it was about 2 years later that she actually passed away. Well, that was something that didn't come unexpectedly. We knew it was going to happen. So it was still a blow, a deep blow. And after a couple of months or so, I thought, well, what do we do? You know, life has to go on, doesn't it? And so I went on the internet, went through the process all again. And I'm happy to say that my new wife and I got married just a matter of weeks ago. This is all true. So that's my story. And I think as a result of it, I would like to make a suggestion to you. You remember Disraeli's aphorism about youth, middle age, and old age. I think we should update that to something like the following. You know, youth is really a passion, middle age is an adventure, and old age is a fulfillment. Thank you very much, ladies.